Yeah, so the book was really, really good, and it really resonated with my own story, which I'm now realizing I didn't talk about at all, so I'll have to make a follow up video. Okay, so I have officially transferred the file from my last video onto my computer to clear up some space on my phone. I don't really know what's going on because it seems like no matter how much stuff I clear off of it, I run out of space like that. And it seems like nothing is actually saving onto the card. Everything is just it's taking up storage space on the actual phone, and I don't know. I don't know what to do, but actually I kind of want a new phone because there's been a noticeable decline in quality as far as, well, the video is okay, but I feel like I sound like I'm submerged, and that's not my favorite thing in the world. So anyway, I wanted to make a follow-up video where I actually talk about the relevance of the concepts of mindset in my own life because, well, even though I think I gave a pretty fair characterization of the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, I don't know that I made the story vivid enough that it's going to really, sink in. Or, at least you might need some supplemental material here. Gosh, the sun is just setting on this day and on my life, and yeah, kind of romantic in a way. It's a little bit poignant. Sky's getting real poetical out there. Okay, so I guess I should start off by saying that whenever I was a kid, I was really, really anxious and also really concerned with this preservation of self-image. So, I don't know why, but I was just sort of fixated on and addicted to the approval of my parents. And I know that that's not like the most alien thing in the world. Plenty of people just want to like receive their parents' affection and attention. But, well, I mean, I got it. Like, my parents weren't unloving. Like, well, my dad had certain issues, but that's neither here nor there. But basically, I really got a huge payload of attention in the second grade. So essentially, at that point, and the details are a bit fuzzy, but somebody from the school approached my parents and said, "Hey, this kid did really, really well on his EOGs, which were the end of grade tests that we had to take, and he might qualify for this academically gifted program, so let's get him through the IQ test and let's see how he does." And man, my parents were freaking pumped. Like, they were never like super academically inclined, and I mean, I think that a lot of that kind of is just intergenerational. Like, nobody ever persuaded them that they could perform in school or that they had a place in the world of academia. So, like with a lot of people, school was just something that they tolerated, something that they resented, a burden foisted upon them by their parents, and I somehow became this cycle breaker. From that point on, my dad was really, really hyping me up, like, oh, you're going to be the next president of the United States. Never mind the fact that there were other kids who also qualified for this academically gifted program, and never mind the fact that a lot of them were much more capable than I was, because one unfortunate quality of my situation was that I've always been pretty autodidactic. So even whenever I was taking this test to see if I qualified to be in these courses, or in this program rather, I like, how some people teach themselves to read and as a result they mispronounce everything, and that's not really a reflection of or on their intelligence at all. So I think there were a lot of little things like that where I just did not, because I was self-taught in a lot of ways, I did not have the appropriate frame of reference to discuss or understand certain problems that were presented to me. In any case, I did end up in the program, and once again, like I said, my parents were really hyped. Actually, that hype kind of propagated like a wave throughout my entire family, and you know, people were calling me things like egghead and Einstein, and yeah, that was very validating briefly. But that's a lot of freaking pressure to be the Einstein of the Swannanoa Valley, which is Swannanoa being a very small town, not even a town, a census designated place in western North Carolina. So there you go. The thing is, I never really bought into the hype. Like, I always knew that I wasn't quite what they thought that I was. I wasn't this absolutely brilliant, infinitely capable person. But that's what they told me, and they continued to tell me that, and I didn't want to let them down, so that became my fixed identity, right? And even if I doubted it in my head, I couldn't really, I couldn't afford to doubt it around my family, so... And I'm not trying to say I didn't do well in school. Like, I did well in school, and I kind of formed my own methods for doing that, but at the same time, gosh, a lot of it was just kind of playing to my strengths. So, and I think of these now as like introverted thinking, extroverted intuition strengths. I knew like the appropriate patterns. I could kind of like map out the framework of how the questions worked, and so I therefore did well in school, especially when it comes to things like multiple choice questions where you can reason your way through the problems and eliminate certain problems, and kind of just like increase your chances of guessing the proper answer even if you don't know jack about it. Gosh, this is such a rambly video. This is my most rambly video, and I'm just going to commit to it, so I'm sorry and thank you. So yeah, I was continually told that I was brilliant, and as a result I started kind of backing off of things that I wasn't a natural at. Like, I was really, really into drawing for a while, and I was okay at it, but at the same time I could only seem to do it well if I had a reference drawing, if I had a reference to draw from. And I just somehow internalized the message that if you need a reference and you're not a real artist, you don't have the talent flowing out of your pores, and you should just give up. So I did. I just gave up. And then later on, I started playing the guitar, and I sort of had the same thing happen. I play now, and I play pretty casually, but I was serious about it for a long time. I was really serious about it, but being self-taught, I developed a lot of habits that started like causing me real physical pain because of the way that I was holding the neck and the way that I was anchoring my palm on the guitar as I picked. And I knew that the only way that I could really improve, because I hit a brick wall, and the only way that I could improve was to just relearn everything from scratch. And I was like, screw that. Like, if I'm not naturally good at it and this way that I've been doing it is not actually appropriate, then this is not meant to be. And thankfully I've managed to unwind that assumption a little bit, and I do play, as you can probably tell, because I like to intersperse little bits of parody throughout my videos. Going down, down, and around. Sugar, we're going down, swinging. My fixed mindset kind of hounded me all the way through college, I decided, well, this is a separate topic, but I didn't really have any ultimate vision for what I wanted to do after school. So on occasion, I would entertain ideas of being a writer, or of doing something that had pretty lofty ambitions tied to it. And besides that, I didn't really want to do anything. So my main goal was to just survive college while maintaining that illusion of being this brilliant kid that my parents could root for. So I studied English because I was a natural at English. I had at one point been really interested in psychology, and um, I knew that I was going to have to take statistics, and I labeled myself as somebody who was incapable of doing anything that involved that quantitative rigor, as I mentioned in my last video. So I just gave up on that. I gave up on a few things throughout college that I was actually genuinely interested in. And don't get me wrong, I was interested in English, but I don't know that I would have stuck with it if I had been willing to push myself a little more. Like, it was a safe thing. I do enjoy writing, but I'm also fairly comfortable in my abilities as a writer and in my capacity to improve, of my own accord. And it's not that I think that I'm an amazing writer, but I can seek out, like, I know how to seek out people who are going to give me feedback, and I know how to be receptive to feedback. I know how to let my darlings die in the fire of critique. So yeah, that's not so much a problem. And I was also, so I was a double major. I studied English and philosophy, and that was just sort of like the cherry on top. It's like, they really won't suspect me if I do a double major and I do really well. So I'm going to pick two things that come naturally to me, and I'm just going to kick butt. And that's going to be impressive until I get, through college. And then what? I didn't really have an answer for the then what. And I'm still kind of coping with that. I'm wrestling with the implications of the then what and trying to formulate a new plan now that I'm like 6 years out of college, and I've just really circled the drain and had a very wandering path. But yeah, once I read Mindset, a lot of things clicked into place for me, and I was like, oh, it's okay for me to fail. Like, if I put effort into something, that's not somehow demeaning or shaming. It's actually a good thing. It means that I'm engaged in the process. I thought that I didn't realize that most people are kind of fighting similar silent battles, and they are also fretting that they are alone in this and that they're a fraud. And that's another thing that I briefly wanted to say about Mindset. So I think that this kind of ties into the concept of imposter syndrome, because if you continually do things that you are a natural at and are always opting for those things over other alternatives, then you slowly start to build up this chain of missed opportunities in your wake. And you can just feel the weight of that. People will praise you for something, and you will just remember in vivid detail, like, all of the times that you failed to pursue something that was genuinely capturing your attention, but which you felt like you couldn't get away with it. You couldn't pull it off because you're just you, and you lack, whatever it is, the wherewithal, the gumption, the fortitude, the intelligence, the talent to pull that thing off. And yeah, that's so unfortunate. But anyway, I now think of myself as a process to the extreme. A few years ago, I wouldn't even dream of putting a video of myself on YouTube because, well, I'm a perfectionist at my core, and yeah, you can't get a video like this perfect, especially if you are like a flesh and blood human being with very, very, very obvious flaws, both physically and psychologically. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I wanted to say. If you're a parent or if you have friends that you mentor, just try to praise them for the process, praise them for their effort, praise them for planning, for strategizing, for doing like a retrospective analysis on situations that went awry. Man, That's how I would do it if I were a dad anyway. And then we would go play catch in the wild green yonder. So, anyway, I think I've been staring at myself and not at the actual camera this time around, at the aperture here. So, thank you for tuning in. Please check out the previous video on mindset if you didn't, because I don't think that this one's going to make a lot of sense. And if you made it this far, then I guess we're experiencing some Stockholm syndrome, and in that case, please subscribe. Okay, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I am grateful to be here on the tube of you. Until next time.